Hi, and welcome to this quick tool review. This time around we'll be evaluating two pair of V-blocks donated by Banggood for my evaluation. And these should be pretty straightforward to find, see whether they're good or not. Pretty much, do the pairs are they matched in height and all the dimensions? Do they also have matching angles on the V portion? And are they somewhat hard so that they won't wear out too quickly? If they meet all these criteria, then you got a pretty decent V-block. So we're going to hop over to the surface plate and evaluate them shortly, but first let's pop them out of the containers. Now this set of V-blocks is going for 93 bucks with free shipping, and it's supposed to be a pair that are 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 by 1 5/8 and 1 1/2 1 1/2 by 2 with clamps and wooden case. Now it's supposed to come in one wooden case. They sent me 2 wooden cases, so let's see what we actually got here. So typically the shipping was a little better. These were wrapped in foam inside a bag, but still in a bag, and as usual they did not arrive intact. So that's really common. This is a set of 4 V-blocks. Actually, what did they send me then? They sent me 2 sets of 4 V-blocks. That's actually really generous of them. So fortunately for me, I tend not to keep the cases anyways, so that won't be a problem because I will store them out of the cases, especially since these cases kind of fell apart. They're just glued together, could be repaired, but anyways, since they sent me extras, we can pop a set of 4. Now they're supposed to be in matched pairs, so they're supposed to be, what that means, in my understanding, is that this pair of V-blocks were ground together, so they should be within limits nearly the exact same size. It'll be interesting to see that set to set if they're still the same size, like they make them in a big batch and they're all pretty much identical. That would be really nice because that means you could grab 4 of them, use them together, and everything would be fine. So what I'm going to do is, first we'll start and evaluate one set to themselves, and then we will grab some representative members of the other set and also compare them to see if that works out. So let's hop over to the surface plate and see what the results are. Sorry, one more thing before we head over. I should unbox a set, so let's start with the exploded box ones. And it's nice, they did ship them in protective corrosion resistant paper, which has a coating on it, so that's nice. It looks like they arrived pretty clean, and they do look like they have been surface ground, so that'll be nice. And they look pretty decent, just from a initial evaluation. There's one pair, and here are the other pair. Yeah, no blemishes. They arrived intact, which is very nice. They have very crisp edges. Not so sharp you'll cut yourself, but interesting that one set of edges are not relieved, the other side is. That's kind of interesting. Maybe there's a reason for that. This one, both sides. So, all right. So let's grab some of these guys, head over the surface plate and give them a measure. I'll clean them off to make sure there's no lube or anything that's going to affect the measurements. And then pretty much, if they're square and flat, we've got a perfect V-block because that is their whole purpose. I mean, they're really there as an accurate spacer of sorts. All right, so I have a brand new Mar 10ths indicator here that I got at a nice deal on eBay. And so I've got it zeroed here on the first block, and I'm using the box as a shade so that the glare makes the hopefully makes the display readable for you. And so right now we're on 0, and you can see as I go down the length of it, it's flat to within less than 1/10, and here I am coming off, so you know that it's for real, and back to 0. Compare the other side of the V on the flat portion, and there we are, just 1/10 off, so that's not too bad at all. And let's see if I flip sides here. Well, you know what, let's compare apples to apples. So if I take the second block and I make sure it doesn't have any dust on it, we are 2/10 high and 1/10 on one side. So this one is off flatness by 1/10 and difference in size from the matched pair by 1/10, up to 2/10, which is not terrible. these are not super expensive blocks, and the other side matches pretty accurately. Looks like it may vary by ½ there. So let's see, if I flip one side to compare a flat side, we are a full 1,000th difference. Then my reference varying by, varying by a 1/10 side to side. So this is reading 1 2/10 positive. Let's compare it to the flat on this one. Hopefully it'll be the same. And yes, it is. So they match again. So they didn't make these perfectly square. These are off by 1,000th on the side, but it looks like they were at least cut as a match set. And let's flip one more time just to get a sense here. And we're back to our 0 with 0 on that side and 0 on this side. And the supposed matching block is a couple of tenths difference. And from the inside to the outside edge, just a little bit of variation. So that's actually generally pretty good. Let's try the other set. So the first set's over here on the left, and here is the second set. And so they are let me make sure they are clean here. They are like 4 or 5/10 difference, or ½ a thousandth or so, than the other set. So if you're trying to do ultra precise work, switching between block sets, here's the original set. See, it's like 1 2 thousandths plus, and this other set is about 6 thousandths, so it's 4/10 difference. Here's the second one. Here, let me make sure it's clean. So the pairs should be kept as a match set because they are not identical. Let's try this side. So here's an original one, and that is 1.1. And this set, holy cow, is -2. That is significantly different. Wow. It is matched to the other one, so they really are matched pairs, but if you buy 4 of them hoping they'll all be the same, not the case. So this one, the dial goes clockwise, ½ plus 1 and change, right? Starts from the 4 and goes around to the 1 and change. If I pop in the second set, it is 3 thousandths difference, so that's somewhat significant, but they do match each other. All right, let's check the V portion now and see how accurate that is. I also have here for comparison a used set, and it's a match set, both stamped 0402, if you can read that, and they're a set of LS Starrett V-blocks. The one thing is they're used. I bought them on eBay, as I get most of my tools or estate sales, and these guys, this one actually varies by quite a few tenths over the distance. Now, that could be because some machinist just used it and wore it out. That's entirely possible. There's also a little bit of patina and corrosion on this guy. Let's see, this one, yeah, this one varies by a few tenths over the length. We're talking from 4 to 5, and let's see how it matches this one here. That one's different by more. Yeah, that one's a ½ a thousandth different. Now, it's not a fair comparison because I don't have a set of new LS Starrett ones, and perhaps they would be nearly perfect. I don't know what the specs of these guys should be because they're actually not spec'd on the packaging, so I'm just running with them as is. So, alright, let's set up for the angle and see how the Vblock, how accurate it is. Alright, so here's another way to test them. Take a 1/2 inch gauge pin, something more appropriate for this size V. Set my 0 on this block. It's actually just a touch over 0 at the high spot, about a 1/2 over. And pop it in the other V-block, then the match set. And there we are. They're like a 1/2 difference. That's actually extremely good. Now, how does that compare to the other pair, or the other set that are not supposed to be a matched pair? And the answer is, the other set is about 1.2 thousandths different with that one, and 1.25 thousandths with the other one. So they're within a 1/2 tenth of each other, just off by a full thousandth and change from the other set. So that's very interesting to note. I'll take some measurements and see how the bigger blocks fare, but I expect them to be somewhat similar. Here's the big block set, and there is the high spot, just a tiny hair over 0, and we will take it and pop the gauge pin in the other one, and again, accurate to within a tenth or less. That's surprisingly good. As a side note, the indicator holder is something I made in my last video, and it catches the dovetail on this MAR indicator very nicely and holds it extremely securely. I was getting very repeatable readings. So if you're interested in how I made it, check out my other video. It's an indicator dovetail holder for height gauge. Alright, so here's my final take. I think they're a pretty good deal for the money. They match from set to set within a couple of tenths, and from within a set with a couple of tenths. From set to set, they're off by about a thousandth. So you really wouldn't want to grab one from one set and one from the other set if you were trying to do any kind of precision work. And if you're doing hyper precision work, this probably is not what you're looking for either. But for most work, it's pretty darn good. Now, so to keep the sets identified, I decided to label them, and I used a punch to do that. And the punch really bounced off. On the big blocks, they're clearly hardened, but I was able to put a little mark, but I also used paint marker to identify the sets. On the small blocks, I had to settle for paint markers because the punch completely bounced off and didn't make a mark at all. So the blocks are about as hard as the punch. So that's impressive. All in all, I think they're pretty darn good. I don't know about absolute accuracy compared to like a set of Starretts. My set of Starretts were used. They looked like they were in really good shape. They didn't look like they were worn at all, but they varied by about 1/2 thousandth across just one edge, and from one to the other, even though they were a matched set, they were off by maybe 1/2 thousandth. So that's quite a bit. However, I don't know if a machinist, reground them at some point. They're old, so maybe that's not as good as the current ones are. I really don't have a feel, and I don't have the money to buy a set of really good V-blocks. So overall, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I think Banggood did a pretty good job. The packaging, consider it sacrificial that the wood will just protect them on the transport here, and after that, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, this is repairable. Just a little bit of glue will repair this box, but all in all, I think a pretty good deal. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.